不管一天打怎样，就要好好应对下一场比赛。
And you can see how Yichin's under pressure. What? Whoa! What was that?
2-0 run. Flash Wolves on form.
저희가 차선 실수만 줄이면은 전승은 충분히 할 것 같아요.
They are blocking the Q from BDD. Snipe!
By Prey.
第二个比赛日的话，希望还是能赢2盘吧。我觉得我们有那个能力打到那边吧。
Theo em thì tất cả đều đánh giá thấp Esports, nên là em sẽ làm cho họ suy nghĩ đó là sai lầm.
Now with the dive to the top side, look at the damage output! Solo kill, first Bloodhouse Stark!
If we go another O2, it will be like mostly like our mental. It will probably hurt us. And it will be really important for us to win at least one game.
And Kingzone are smashing North America's hope.
It's really important for us to get the win and to really showcase like North America as like a really good region. Losing is not an option.
Welcome to Berlin, Germany, host of the 2018 MSI Group Stage. After playing their first games yesterday, the teams now look to strengthen their position as we get closer and closer to the semifinals. Here you see some of the players making their way into the studio just moments ago. 6 more games ahead of us here on day 2. Hello everyone, I'm James Dash Patterson, joined by Indiana FLICKR in black, Chris Papa Smithy Smith, and Joshua Jat Leesman. I think it's safe to say that the games did not go the way people expected them to on day 1, but that just points to a very intriguing and interesting group stage ahead of us.
Yeah, I said yesterday I always loved MSI Group Stage because of the surprises. I've changed my mind.
You don't like the surprises anymore.
Like surprises.
Right.
If the surprise is Team Liquid going 0-2 on day 1 for me, so hopefully they can bounce back today.
Well, with that, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say he's in great company. EU's down there as well as O2, so it's not just you.
Everyone's happy.
Exactly. As we saw yesterday, Kingzone got off to a great start along with the Flash Wolves. Following them, though, in 3rd place, we have EVOS Esports and Royal Never Give Up, with Fnatic and Team Liquid still looking for their first wins. Now, with these results in mind, I want to know what your guys' takeaways are from our first day of play. Obviously, Jat does not like surprises. Papa Smithy, what are you looking at?
I mean, the big thing for me is the Flash Wolves, because the Flash Wolves have been around. They've always been around. They've been a bit up and down in performances. To me, the biggest takeaway for the Flash Wolves, apart from the scoreline, is the fact that they had 5 performing members. Every time we see the Flash Wolves, we had things to say about their top laner. We had their things to say about their AD carry. It's only 1 day's play, but they have 5 people performing at the same time. And that's a pretty hype thing for the Flash Wolves.
And it was also Flash Wolves staying true to themselves.
Sure.
You know, this is a team that likes to play through their bot lane. They like to put Betty on those comfort champions, priority picking up the Varus, getting a roaming mid laner. So they didn't try to experiment too much on the international stage and came in as strong contenders.
When you look at MSI history, the team from the LMS has actually always made it through to the group stage. Only LCK, LPL, and the LMS can say that. So the fact that so many of us just wrote off Flash Wolves because they'd lost Carlson before the tournament, they kind of proved why that was a mistake early on.
And yeah, we joke about it, but in all reality, Team Liquid going 0-2 was a surprise, in particular, the loss to EVOS Esports.
Yeah, and the way they lost as well. The fact that they picked Gangplank top lane for impact, even though a lot of people have been doing Gangplank, Liquid shied away from that in the latter half of the year, and I want to see them return to just putting impact on a good CC tank, and I want to see them play cleaner. They were so clean in the playoffs, and they lost that. But then surprises keep coming, because we're going to talk about it more later, but Ole's not playing the first game. They're starting Joey.
Yes, that is a big storyline for the day. We'll get into that in just a bit, but FLICKR, what are your major takeaways from day 1's play?
I'm always excited about kind of the tournament meta that starts to form. And yeah, I'm a little bit gun-shy because it's only been 1 day of play, but specifically the AD carry champion pool. The fact that we're seeing the rise of the double tier Ezreal, I I think that, personally, I think it's way too strong. It needs to be taken away, especially from Kingzone. But a lot of people are saying, you know, where is Caitlyn? I had the chance. I spoke to Betty. I spoke to Uzi. And they personally think that Caitlyn has just disappeared from the international stage because she takes too long to scale up. The games are going too quick, and the tempo is just not right for her to reach that breaking point in itemization, whereas the Rageblade AD carries are continuing to take over.
Some pros perspective there. We'll see how the meta continues to develop throughout our 5-day group stage. Let's go ahead and move ahead to today's schedule, where Fnatic get a chance to bounce back in their very first game here against Kingzone. After that, we've got our 2 third-place teams facing off before the Flash Wolves look to continue their winning streak against Team Liquid.
I think the elephant in the room is, can anyone even beat Kingzone? With this schedule, especially with Fnatic's dropped performance yesterday, it should be an easy day for them. But, you know, as the tournament progresses, where do you look for weaknesses here?
I think with Kingzone, a lot of people look at them, they say, is this going to be the first undefeated tournament? I wasn't there pre-tournament. I'm still not there now.
Okay.
I feel like they've shown in the LCK finals, one style with the Kai'Sa, that worked. The Ezreal style with TP, that works. I think they're ready to show new things. And we have practice teams here where if they're firing on all cylinders, they can drop a game. A game, yes. A series, maybe not.
It's a scary thought to think they have more things to show, Jack.
Yeah, and also we have to keep in mind that no team in a 10-team group stage in MSI has gone 9-1, let alone 10-0 in the group stage, because we have to remember it's the #1 team from every single region in the world that's here at MSI.
Right.
Then they filtered it to the top 6 through the play-in stage to get here, so it is so insanely difficult to actually beat every single one of these teams twice without messing up once.
Right, tracking the Titans in Kingzone will be one of the things we do today. Another very interesting matchup that we have comes in our final game of the day, the classic EU versus NA, but as well, these are 2 teams sitting currently at 0-2. Of course, they'll have one opportunity to pick a game up here at the top of the day, only then to face off against each other.
I think it's about going back to identity. You know, Fnatic, Rekkles came out, he played Kai'Sa, he played Jhin, 2 of these champions that we almost never see him on. He hasn't played Jhin the entirety of the 2018 spring split, whereas TL, you know, reaching for that gangplank. So I want to see, as Jat's saying, you know, throw it out, go back to comfort, and actually give us a good, you know, clash.
Yeah, and Rekkles as well as Fnatic played so below expectations yesterday. Rekkles was the MVP of the European LCS with 88 kills across 18 games. He had 1 kill yesterday in 2 games. Just terrible. And then you look at Liquid, subbing out Ole, also playing pretty poorly. You know, they have to step it up in a big way. So that game could very well be 2 0-3 teams trying to pick up their first win.
Let's talk about that substitution just briefly. Joey coming in. This is a guy who has very little experience on big stages, has been subbed in twice during his days on CLG over in NA, played in Challenger a bit. But then to show up here on day 2 of an international competition against 1 seeds from across the world, Papa Smithy, what can even be the expectation here?
So, I mean, it's been very clear they haven't really been screaming with this guy. At the end of the day, he's very much been just taking a backseat role. I think his first test is very simply, he's going to be put on something in lane. Can he perform in lane? And the evolving question is, can the team evolve their warding patterns to actually support making this work? Because as the game goes on, jungle support, and it's increasingly only support, can ward in the late game. He's going to need a lot of assistance, and they're going to need to cover the slack to really make it work.
I mean, that said, his champion pool, he has a lot of Taric. It's his #1 played champion. I know that Liquid like to play Taric during the regular split, so I think that it's not going to be too hard for him to kind of fit into the system that Liquid have.
I'd also like to get a read on our other 2-0 team in Flash Wolves. Again, a bit of a surprise yesterday that they found themselves at the top of the table. Frostgren, what's your take on the actual strength of this team moving forward in the tournament?
I went back. I was hard on the Flash Wolves yesterday. I think it was a strength of schedule issue, especially for how poor performing Fnatic were yesterday. I watched the VODs. I'm still not completely convinced on Flash Wolves. Some of their setups, particularly around Baron, I think there's a lot to exploit there. That said, day 2, this is the important one for me. This is the time where Flash Wolves can shut me up and say, yes, they are true contenders for this tournament.
And I think a lot of people overlooked Flash Wolves, including the teams in the tournament.
Yes.
The fact that Betty so easily got Varus both games, his comfort AD carry in an AD carry meta, I think should change, and we'll see how they adapt to that.
All right, we've already seen some surprising results, and now you guys have another chance to make a fool out of yourselves. Let's take a look at your predictions for day 2. Papa Smithy, you have the unfortunate position of being in a game down here because of the predictions made by Vidius yesterday, sitting at that 500.
I can't wait to take down Guest.
That pesky Guest. And really, In actuality, you guys only differ here in the final game of the day, that Fnatic versus Team Liquid game.
Yeah, and I also want to note that the first 3 predictions are locked for us. We have the opportunity to change the next 3 based on the results today. But
is that your way of throwing me a lifeline? Like I can come to the
we might need it. We also might need that lifeline.
Say that, and I'm not going to let you live it down if you do change.
It's one of those things where pre-tournament, I felt like Liquid had a good matchup against Fnatic. I really need to see the first performance with Joey and work out, is it actually just a sizable change? Then you can probably have to make the adaptation. But if they look similar, if it goes similarly, then I think Liquid have a good matchup.
I'm actually in total agreement with Papa Smithy. Initially coming into the day, I had Team Liquid favored in the Fnatic matchup, but there's no way in good confidence right now with how Impact is performing and how having a brand new support that I can say that I think Fnatic, they'll throw it out, they'll go back to their team fighting style, and it's just easier to execute. So that's why I have Fnatic favored here.
And I was penciling in Team Liquid against Flash Wolves yesterday.
Until
thinking that, hey, if Ole can get his mental together, if he can focus and play more like he did during the good times in Team Liquid, they'll be all right. But after hearing the announcement that Ole actually wants to step back and refocus a little bit and they're bringing in Joey, I just can't in good confidence say this dude who's
with
played
zero evidence
2 LCS games with Aphromoo and played on the Academy team of Liquid is going to be able to beat Sword Art on the international stage. So that's why I still have Liquid penciled in for Fnatic, is like maybe 1 game's enough to warm up, but we'll have to see.
It's a bit of a flip-flopper's dream, it feels like today, that we do have that extra variable, and now it's like, whoa, I agree with you. I was all about Liquid 2-0. You lost a bit of heart, and now...
Can we also acknowledge the difficulty facing EVOS Esports today, facing both RNG and Kingzone? They are sitting at 1-1, having picked up that win yesterday against Team Liquid. If they want to keep that momentum going, it would require them to upset one of these 2 Goliaths of a team. I
mean, that said, there's also the aspect of like kind of no pressure on them because they are against the top 2 teams in the tournament, as a lot of people are predicting. So for them, I just think you play fearless, you go back to your style, and you just throw everything that you got and see what sticks.
All right, well, there you have it. That's about going to do it for us here at the desk. The teams are readying up as we speak. So that's enough from us here at the Analyst Desk. Time to send it over to the casters and enjoy today's games.
Thank you very much, Dash, and hello, everyone. I'm Aaron Medic Chamberlain, joined by Andrew Vedius Day. And in the middle of this delicious Medi-Vedi sandwich, we've got a bit of Canadian bacon. It's Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley. How you doing, mate?
I was doing better before you said that.
Understandable, understandable. Our first game is between Kingzone and Fnatic, with the LCK champions playing on the blue side. In the top lane, it is Khan, their jungler Peanut, mid BDD, AD carry Prey, support Gorilla, and their coach Axing.
And these guys just look unstoppable after their day 1 performance. A lot of it did come down to Prey and his Ezreal. I feel like this is a champion that you cannot afford to give him. But overall, like, we still got to see Khan's Camille. We got to see what Peanut can do if he has a strong early game. This whole team just feels unstoppable.
It really does, and it's always funny to me when people talk about, you can't give them this, you can't give them that, because there's so many things that you're not supposed to give over to Kingzone. You know, people saw, well, why are they giving them Kai'Sa in the finals? And then he's playing Ezreal, well, why are you giving him Ezreal? And then he's going to get another pick. Well, you can't give him that either, right? You know, they're just so good on so many picks. They can play so many strategies, and that is why they're far and away the best team at this tournament so far.
So far, you never know. Maybe they'll be upset today, because on the other side, we have Fnatic still looking for their first win. In the top lane is Bwipo, their jungler Broxah, their mid lane Caps, AD carry, the inevitable Rekkles, support Hylissang, and their coach, Dylan Falco.
And the big question for Fnatic and Rekkles in particular is he going to be able to step up? Throughout the whole regular season, throughout the playoffs, this was a very heavy 2-carry team. Caps and Rekkles performing very well, and Caps performed excellently yesterday, but Rekkles was not there, kind of giving that damage from the bottom lane, and he's going to have to turn out a better performance if they want to compete against these top-level teams.
I do feel that Rekkles really did underperform yesterday, and I hope that it was just kind of a bit of jitters coming into the first day of the tournament. He's still playing in his home region. He should feel a little bit more comfortable now that he will be playing alongside what seems to be a very proactive Caps. He did come in bringing Yasuo in his very first game of the tournament. He had a fantastic outplay onto Xiaohu, and while he did have a lot of successes, he had a couple of mishaps too. So if we can just find a bit of consistency from the young superstar in the middle lane and a little bit of return to form for Rekkles, perhaps Fnatic can put up a bit more of a better challenge against Kingzone.
It'll be interesting too to see, what their pick ban strategy is going to be, because in Rekkles' interview yesterday with Travis, he was talking about how he wanted to go back to comfort, how the Jhin and the Kai'Sa weren't as practice for them, and it'll be interesting to see if that's going to be the case.
Well, we'll find out in just a second, because we are going to jump on into pick ban. Yesterday, we saw teams targeting out Bwipo in that top lane in this first rotation of bans. Kingzone have started off with a Trundle, and Fnatic have removed Prey's Ezreal.
Woohoo! All right, so they've taken one of the strong picks away from Prey. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Kai'Sa ban. You talked a little bit about it, Azale, where it did feel like Fnatic did not have a huge amount of comfort on it. And the Aurelion Soul ban coming out from Kingzone. This was something that us casters had a lot of discussion around coming into today's game. Would Caps go back to one of his big comfort picks? Kingzone is saying, nope, we refuse to give you that.
And I think it makes a lot of sense to take Aurelion's Soul away when you haven't played against it a lot. It's such a unique champion, and it completely changes the way that the side lanes can actually play on the map. So, pretty standard pick.
I'm interested to see actually no Kai'Sa ban here from Fnatic. They are accepting that Kingzone can first pick that right now if they want to.
They've now learned Kog'Maw, great counter pick to the Kai'Sa, so perhaps they're more than comfortable with a couple of answers that they have prepared. But when you look across the board with all the junglers that have been banned away, I'm curious as to what the early priority does come out for Kingzone.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Kai'Sa left up and not taken away. And as we did see yesterday, as you said, the Kog'Maw was effective into it, but we have to remember that it's also a lot about the support matchup. In the LPL playoffs, for example, Uzi was playing Kai'Sa into Kog'Maw and winning thanks in part to a ranged support, against the melee support. We saw Kai'Sa picked 3 straight times in the finals for Kingzone. They made it work in lane every time, so it's not as if it's just an auto-concede lane. It becomes a lot about the support matchup and how you're able to play around that lane with jungle pressure.
Rekkles has Tristana.
This is such a big pick for Fnatic and Fnatic fans to see. Like, when this man locks in Tristana, he changes his playstyle completely. So far, he's been unrivaled in Europe, but on the international stage, I don't know if he's going to have the same kind of laning phase that he would typically get.
And Xayah Rakan is left open. Rakan had been banned every single game on day 1, and Kingzone is going to get one of the most dominating early game laning duos, in the game against Tristana, who can really struggle in those early minutes.
If you're a Fnatic fan, you have to hope Rekkles has stepped up his laning from yesterday, because yesterday it was abysmal. 50 CS behind Uzi, losing out in that second matchup as well. He needs to be stronger. He is on a comfort pick, as you said, Vedios.
But now for Kingzone, they've drafted themselves typically a winning top lane matchup with the Sion. And if you're Kingzone, you can just ban away the Cho'Gath now, which is another one of Bwipo's comfort champions. You also have winning bots. And if you want to, you can round your composition out with a Karma mid. And Kingzone have drafted themselves a very similar composition from yesterday, where a lot of the emphasis comes on Prey and enabling him to be the big carry.
I'm definitely expecting Fnatic to take away perhaps the Olaf also, as jungle hasn't been selected for Peanut. They're taking away the Sejuani. The Olaf is gone, so maybe taking even another pick away, trying to keep Peanut down, because I really do feel when you're giving up bot lane priority in this 2v2, you need to be able to have some strong lanes. You need to be able to have a jungle who can actually track and interact with Peanut, because Peanut is so dominating in his early game play and how he controls the map. We saw even yesterday, if you give him an inch, he will take a mile, and when your lanes are already being pushed in, that can result in dives. That can result in towers going down.
So what have we got left up for these two teams? Top lane and mid for Fnatic. Wonder which they'll leave for the last pick there. Kingzone still have possibly a mid laner in the form of Sion. Could be a flex pick, and their jungler left to pick.
I feel like that if you're Fnatic right now, you just go for something safe like the Ornn or the Cho'Gath. You have a safe tank top lane matchup. Take Bwipo off the carries and putting on something that he's had a little bit more success with during the playoffs. And now if you're Kingzone, it's about where you go for with your jungle, because I feel like you don't really have that many options left.
Yeah, I mean, there is Zac. There are still things that are kind of more flavor picks for Peanut, things like the Lee Sin, the Nidalee. I know there's different options depending on if they want to tank. The Zac does make the most sense. I also really do like leaving counter pick for Caps. Last pick for him, as he was far and away the best performing member from Fnatic yesterday. If there was a way perhaps for Fnatic to beat Kingzone, it could be Caps, creating that pressure as he was able to against Xiaohu, really dominating perhaps in a side lane 1v1.
So what did Kingzone pick here? Because I was thinking the Vladimir, it gives you the double flex possibility, and it means Caps might have a hard time picking for that mid lane.
I feel like that with a Vladimir, the safest pick here for Fnatic is the Cassio.
Yeah,
I feel like it does pretty well into the Vlad, and it will do fine into the Sion, and it synergizes quite nicely with the composition that they've drafted for themselves with good Baron setup and a pretty strong scaling composition overall.
I do think can be really strong. The only kind of fear for me if you go Cassio is have you pick too much scaling against a Xayah Rakan and then, you know, this explosive early game. So they may want to go for a bit of a different option, and the Swain would be a different spin on that. Like Corki as well does give you some more early game power, which I think can be pretty beneficial. You can't concede all lanes. You can't kind of just sit back and wait too long against Kingzone because they will choke you out. So certainly Caps on the Corki, especially with package, the ability to actually move out on the side lanes, you know, look for roams, look for plays alongside perhaps Broxah hitting level 6 could be pretty powerful. But my big concern for Fnatic is really looking at Prey and Gorilla, because that is a lane that can dominate. That is a lane that can take over the game. The Xayah Rakan is going to be looking to push in and punish Fnatic's underperforming bottom lane.
You know, and you talked, Medic, about the flexibility of the Sion and the Vladimir, and it looks like the Kingzone are going to do that as we pass the 20-second mark. Those are the champions that have been locked in. We will have Khan on the Vlad, and typically into a tank matchup, Khan feels a lot more comfortable when he's playing these carries, and for BDD, he's more than happy to just sit in mid, push, and maybe even roam towards the bot side of the map. You have that ulti to very easily roam between the side lanes, and he can match Caps every single time he picks himself up that package.
And you have to just remember how dominating Khan is on the carry picks. When you add in yesterday's victory on Camille, he's 24-1 in 2018 on carries. He just doesn't lose. And, you know, Vladimir into Ornn can be a pretty nice matchup, so we'll see how he's going to be able to handle that.
Fnatic need to be able to play around the fact that their bot lane is losing. We expect to see a lot of pressure down there from Kingzone. Is it just going to be a repeat of yesterday for Fnatic? Is it going to be a repeat of yesterday for Kingzone as well? Because they have looked absolutely unstoppable already here at MSI. We're going to jump onto the Summoner's Rift. This game 1 of the second day. Kingzone looking to continue their unbeaten streak. Fnatic looking to grasp a win from nowhere.
It's going to be really interesting to see what BDD chooses to go as far as the build, because Sion traditionally does love to rush banner in these AP matchups, and while it is, you know, an AD carry, he deals 80-90% magic damage as the Corki, so you still can actually just rush a straight up banner, because even the auto attacks really can't take it down. So I think banner rush is exceptionally effective there, and, you know, while Corki can be a strong early pick, you may struggle once that banner is completed to have lane priority.
And I feel like he's noticed that, but we've got to keep a look at this level 1 from Fnatic.
Prey face check straight into the bush. Fnatic looking for the flash forward. Hylissang there as well. The decimating smash is big, but Prey cannot escape. Fnatic get first blood. Now BDD needs to run for the hills. Hylissang will have the Winter's Bite back up. Flash from BDD.
Fnatic with the creative level 1 plays, find Prey out of position and take away his flash. We talked about how Kingzone, they have the strong 2 versus 2 and they want to take advantage of that. With a flashless AD carry, this will make it so much harder for Kingzone to get that early advantage.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes so difficult to actually push up aggressively, and they're trying to continue the play. They are camped out here. Gorilla is spotted on ward. If he gets tagged, he could be going down too.
He's able to jump away with the grand entrance, gets himself to safety for the time being, but Fnatic will be able to steal away this red from this invade.
You can see that Bwipo, he has actually moved towards his own topside jungle. He's dropped a ward on his red buff, and Fnatic want to make sure that they have the jungle advantage over Peanut.
I mean, this is just honestly an incredible start here for Fnatic, especially if Broxah can actually get over to his own red buff and prevent any potential trades. He's taking away the Raptors, he's already stolen away the red, and I mean, Prey, face checking in, Braum's level 1 is so exceptionally strong, not knowing where they are, that does seem like a little bit of a loss of focus there from him, and, you know, not only giving up the flash, but BDD loses his flash. They give up first blood. That now changes how they can play bottom lane. There's so many kind of snowfalling implications. The dominoes start to come into effect.
And a couple of things that have happened as a result of that. You can see Bwipo already picking himself up a bit of health very early on with the first blood gold. He doesn't need to back because he's Ornn, so one of the most efficient people that can spend that early gold will help him out a little bit in terms of this 1 versus 1. And again, we have to go back to this bot lane because look who has the push right now. Fnatic were the duo that are able to get to lane first and are able to have a little bit more control, and they can mitigate this level 2, level 3 power spike that Prey and Gorilla will have on the lovers duo.
And it's also how Rekkles, in particular, loves to play his Tristana lanes. He's one of the only guys who consistently is rushing Berserker Greaves, emphasizing getting attack speed, to always have the push, to kind of invalidate some of the trading advantages that something like a Xayah Rakan would have, because if you're always pushed under your turret, you can't always, engage and get those fights.
And it's such a difference from yesterday. Yesterday, Rekkles only spent 7% of the early game past the halfway point in the lane. He only had a 7% forward percentage. Absolutely passive in that lane. You can see he was down in CS, he was down in damage as well, compared to his regular performance in the EU LCS.
And I think it's so important to highlight the difference, because this is why so many European fans were hyped up about Rekkles. He's had one of the best splits that he's had for such a long time. He's been very dominant domestically, but then he comes onto the MSI stage and he gets absolutely obliterated. And to come into day 2 with a very good start, that will spark a lot more confidence in the fans here in the studio.
Definitely will, but it's just such a tough tournament for these AD carries.
Sure.
There's so many amazing players. These bot lanes, it's not even just the individuals, work so well together that if you are not on your A game, it's going to be extremely difficult to compete. But with Broxah out to an early level lead, you can look and think, get level 6, maybe try to make a play.
And now my eyes are on Peanut as to what he will be able to do, because the thing with Zach is you do sacrifice a lot of your own health when you're clearing through the jungle, so typically you can be regularly invaded on. And by stealing away the first red, we don't have time because Broxah's going for a gank in mid.
Looking for the gank on BDD, no flash on that Sion, does get the slow. Flash in though, Broxah gets the stun lock, BDD caught out at the tower. Fnatic gets second kill of the game. There's a fight in the bottom lane as well. Rekkles is low. Ignite down on him. He has to flash heal away, but the chase is in. The Gleaming Quill from Gorilla hits home, and now Hylissang has to run for the hills as well.
Yeah, and the bottom lane for Kingzone just striking back, getting so much there from themselves. Despite being down a summoner, they get the 2v2 kill. But Broxah, good job following up on the level 1 play. They knew BDD's flash was down. They commit to that. Getting a kill on Caps certainly going to be big, but it is concerning to see that 2v2 death for Fnatic when you were the ones that had the summoner advantage.
And it's so good for Kingzone's bottom lane. We didn't get to see it on screen, so let's see how it kicked off. Rekkles gets knocked up very, very clutch from Gorilla there. He thinks that he's out of range, but then just before he gets stunned, he's able to land the Q. And the all-in level 3 power spike, I said how it would be mitigated, not from this Kingzone duo. They always find a way back in.
Yeah, and Hylissang just wasn't in position to actually block the feathers, the pullback there, so the root following up onto Rekkles is almost a guaranteed death with the Ignite being dropped down. And Kingzone just showing why they are considered to be the best bot lane in the world.
And even though Fnatic were able to find a kill in the middle lane, Prey comes back to lane with a BF sword. 5 minutes into the game, we talked so much about how this 2v2 is going to be so pivotal for Kingzone, and now they have full control of what looked like a terrifying start.
Summoner advantage now for Prey as well in that lane. They've got the heal, they've got the flash on the AD carry, so Kingzone can look to be aggressive in that bottom lane. We saw yesterday against Team Liquid, they fell behind a couple of kills, but you can never count Kingzone out. At any moment, they can strike and collapse on any mistake you make.
Yeah, definitely the case, and I'm going to be very interested to track kind of some of the build options here for Khan to see what he's going to elect to do. This is a guy who can really take over a game, and to see if he's going to go for early Shirelias or mix it up a little bit, try to prioritize more something for the 1v1 can be pretty interesting.
Have to keep our eyes on that top lane. It's been pretty quiet up to now. Somewhere that hasn't been quiet is that jungle position. Broxah actually a 2-level advantage over Peanut here. Has that ultimate available as well.
We've seen early ganks from Broxah. We've seen so many jungle camps being stolen away from Zach. And one of the big things that we on the desk talked about yesterday was, can you keep Peanut down? So far in this game, Broxah has found a nice advantage, but the bottom lane of Fnatic is starting to struggle as Hylissang getting zoned away from his lane. But here they are again, onto this red buff.
Push in that bottom lane. Broxah coming up. You can see Caps coming down from the middle lane as well. Fnatic are in the lead at the moment, 1,000 gold ahead, and they can make plays like that because of it. But you do have to remember that AD carry disparity.
And you can see Caps kind of cheating towards the bottom side of the lane. So is BDD. They're getting ready to come down if a fight were to break out.
Broxah does smite away the red. No fight for now. Kingzone seems to be willing to give up that red buff. Have a little bit of a peek, but don't really need to contest for it. And now Fnatic actually, with the river control, are going to start up the Ocean.
The whole setup here for Fnatic was very clean in the way in which they gradually got deeper and deeper vision, because Rekkles, you talked about Azale, the rush for attack speed, that's triple daggers in lane for Rekkles, and he just tried to get this push in as quickly as possible just as the red buff respawned. So clearly a well thought out plan, which Fnatic, with good vision control, have successfully executed.
And I think Fnatic have done a fantastic job of capitalizing on that early mistake, really kind of snowballing their advantage. And all of their advantages really have come from that level 1 and the kind of follow-up plays that they have made. Now getting this Ocean Dragon, which is, I think, the strongest dragon in the game if you get it this early, can really help you out in the laning phases, makes it so hard to poke you out, especially someone like Bwipo who's already going to be working towards that Abyssal. For Vladimir to really be able to kind of push you out becomes that much harder.
Bwipo trading into Khan in the top lane as well. Khan still hasn't backed, of course, so sitting on a bunch of gold up there. Fnatic have actually one-upped any of Kingzone's opponents from day one. No one got an Ocean Drake against them yesterday. Today, Fnatic have got one.
Bright side.
No Ocean Drake spawned in their games, but still, the statistics stands.
We take that.
Yeah, we take that.
You know?
Anytime Western team can win out on anything, that's what we're taking at the moment. Fnatic, though, taking advantage in the top lane as the Call of Portugal comes out. Bwipo just trying to keep Khan around for the moment.
And this is just really nice. He's trying to delay the back, not really looking for a kill there. No, he has the lane advantage, got the first blood, has the Ornn passive to kind of craft those items in lane, and as such, he's keeping his opponent pushed in, and Broxah is moving up here.
Flashing from Bwipo with the slow. Gets the Bella's Breath out as well. Peanut here is level 6. BDD on his way as well. Bwipo, no flash on him, of course. There's the suppression, but it's only onto Peanut, and Broxah's gone way too far. Here comes the Corki, though. One on Khan. Peanut goes into the globules as well. BDD's going to fight off Bwipo and Caps. Trying to catch on towards that. Zach able to get the double. Caps secures it. And Kingzone are forced back in the top lane.
Initially, it looked very good for Kingzone as they flashed this Broxah underneath his tower. But with the package, with the arrival of Caps, Fnatic are able to turn around and they get a 2-for-1.
I mean, that was just an incredible roam from Caps. Picking up where he left off yesterday, playing so well, and Bwipo doing such a good job being able to kind of continue that pressure, delay the base for Khan, buy time for Broxah to get up there, and this is just great early game play from Fnatic.
You talked about it, Azale. It's the power of Caps to roam around the map as well. BDD was there first, but Caps with the package was able to collapse and get those kills in the top lane.
And I feel like we got to credit Bwipo here, because this all started with the good trades and the lack of ability for Khan to be able to go back to base. You saw Caps roaming behind Broxah, and while BDD and the rest of Kingzone did their best to punish Broxah, they cannot do much about the flanking package, the fact that they did not have flash to get out of that situation, and the fact that Fnatic, they just had the item advantage and they had the damage needed to secure themselves the kills.
And it shows a lot of foresight, knowing they can go that deep because they have the package, because Caps is on the roam. The communication certainly is there so far for Fnatic, but has to be said, the bottom lane still in a good position here for Kingzone. The gold lead has certainly not gotten out of hand by any means. So Fnatic need to continue this pressure. They need to continue creating advantages, because you can never sit back and rest on your laurels against a team like Kingzone. One mistake can mean they're back in the lead.
Exactly that. We saw yesterday when they went up against Team Liquid how effectively they punished one slight mistake where Team Liquid tried to go for 2 objectives, Kingzone stopped both of them, and then they took 3 towers immediately off the back of that. So Fnatic, even with a good early lead, you can never count this Kingzone squad out.
And we have to know, now that the banner is completed here for BDD, this is something that can kind of lock you into your own lane as Caps, because there's always going to be pressure on your turret if you don't actually, have yourself there to deal with it. Yes, he has the minion tier materializer, but still, it's going to do a lot of damage if you ever leave a lane and the cannon pops up.
I see Khan is going towards that Shurelias. We wondered exactly how he'd build on this Vladimir. Shurelias works in teamfights, kind of works in the lane as well, gets you there a little bit quicker, means that if you ever catch Bwipo out, you can chase him down pretty effectively.
Now I'm looking also like this Kingzone early game. They're at a slight deficit right now, 1.4k gold behind. And the one thing I would have said was that when you have a Xayah Rakan up against a Tristana Braum, how much of a free laning phase will Rekkles be able to get? Because in Europe, he got it all the time. Teams could not successfully play around it, they could not punish it, and they would just do their best to lose gracefully. At least that's what you'd expect on the international stage. Now, to be fair, Prey and Gorilla have barely touched the tier 1 tower in the bottom lane. If we just pan over and look at its HP, due to the rush of attack speed from Rekkles and Hylissang, they've just kept this wave pushed up as much as possible. And I feel like a large part of that is because Peanut has struggled to have any kind of impact so far in this game.
Alongside that, Fnatic are forcing players on the top side of the map, keeping people away from that bottom lane, forcing Peanut to have to react to Broxah's consistent invades and Cap's roams.
And it's really interesting because so much of that is just from the pre-game planning from Fnatic. They get the level 1 kill, they force out a flash from the mid laner. That means they can take away jungle camps. That puts Peanut behind. That makes the 2v2 play more passively. So there's all these things that are just kind of interconnected. But Kingzone certainly, at their 1-item power spikes, I think are going to be a lot stronger, especially from the bottom side of the map. So we may look to see them forcing around an objective once Prey completes his first item.
Looks like the Ocean Drake is probably going to be the objective they play towards. 30 seconds before that is up. Getting a couple early for Fnatic would be a boon, especially for Bwipo in that top lane. But you have to expect Kingzone to start to pull the trigger at some point.
And again, look at this from Fnatic. 3rd red buff in a row that they're playing for. Cap's already in the lane.
Flash pull back with a great let's bounce from Peanut, gets him away. He flashes as well. BDD now coming up from the mid lane. Hylissang's there as well. BDD may just need to run away from this one. Broxah on the wrong side. Teleport coming in from Khan. Kingzone want this fight. We said they would force, and they're forcing straight on towards the Skarner. He's dead in the jungle. Kingzone capitalized. Khan, though, might be a little bit caught out here by Caps. Hylissang brings down the Fisher to the face and gets the kill.
Really nicely done, honestly, by Fnatic. They don't even TP in their top laner. They trade for kills. Very well done. We'll see now if they can actually try to play for this dragon, because Khan is going to have to be pulled back up to the top side of the map. Bwipo will have his teleport to join, and Khan will not.
And that top tower, we have to check out how low that is getting, because Bwipo, he's just been free to hit down on it now. Only about 40% of its HP. This could have been a huge punish for Kingzone, taking advantage of the fact that Broxah had no flash, but the rest of Kingzone, they split. And that right there was the big issue for Khan, because he was left in a 1v2 scenario against a Corki that has a Trinity Force before 15 minutes.
You've got to say, though, Peanut played that pretty damn well.
He did.
Using the ultimate to actually essentially immune Broxah's ultimate and pull him back in with him was pretty sick, but this could just be...
Could just be first brick for Bwipo in the top lane.
He's just going to get it. I mean, you could probably just tank up the Vladimir at this point and get those last couple hits in.
Final order attack. Bwipo gets the solo gold as well and forces Khan low. Knows there's no Hemoplague, knows there's no flash, can just harass in this lane. Let's have another look at that fight.
Yeah, and here it is one more time. This is Broxah already having fought, but Khan TPing in from behind, just isolated. And really, the Ignite is so clutch there, limiting the healing. Caps has so much damage, and him and Hylissang collapsing on that teleport, not allowing themselves to get flanked was really good.
And before the game, we talked about how there was a bot lane focus for Fnatic, getting Rekkles to a position where he could carry again. Caps would be the stalwart presence who makes the plays, but you have to bring attention to Bwipo. We thought there would be a massive skill disparity between Bwipo, who's never played internationally, and Khan. There's going to be a fight down here in the bottom lane. Bwipo is the one teleporting in.
Already.
Call of the Forge God, the horn comes out, the pain train lands, only onto the Rakan though. Gorilla caught there, the package in, Prey flashes away, but Caps still on the chase. Gorilla's going to sacrifice himself, and Fnatic capitalize in the bottom lane.
They utilize the TP advantage that Bwipo gained after Khan tried to collapse down in the river. In the top side of the map, Khan is doing his best to try and retaliate, but Fnatic, they find themselves more kills in the bottom side of the map, but it looks like they won't get any further objectives.
Yeah, and Vladimir is not really the one to punish a roam. Turret damage is pretty poor. Zac as well, so Peanut's trying to trade back on the top side, looking for this Rift Herald, but Caps teleporting back in. They're aware of it and just going to straight up push them off. They're so much stronger right now on the top side of the map.
And what a difference this is from Fnatic for day one early game performances. They were about 1,000 gold behind at the 15-minute mark. This game, they're 3,000 ahead. Compare that to Kingzone, they averaged 3,000 ahead themselves on day one.
And this is simply Bwipo coming in from the flank. It's always going to be difficult to kill Prey when he has all of his summoner spells available. He has the ulti too, but the fact that they force so much out of him means that coming into the next couple of team fights, Fnatic are going to be in a much better position. And even though they don't drop that bot lane tower, mid is extremely low, bot is extremely low, and Kingzone, they're on the back foot.
Bishop used on BDD just to slow him up. He's going to run away. And that's the mid lane tower going down. Bot lane, you have to think, is the next focus for Fnatic.
Definitely the case. I mean, it's extremely low, and Kingzone are going to have to kind of buy a little bit at a time, start to scale up, because really, Khan is kind of struggling on the top side of the map, and it's going to be Bwipo looking to move around, force fights, and try to keep up this pace before they can really buy that time.
Because when we look at Kingzone's composition, and you mentioned scaling, it's quite an interesting comp that they have, because when you think of Xayah, she she does have good scaling, but relative to someone like a Tristana, you're always going to say that the Tristana will have the stronger late game. But when you tie that Xayah in with a Vladimir and the front line of a Sion, this team fighting capability of Kingzone is very strong, along with their ability to play a 1-3-1 style.
And how incredible the combos can be in a team fight here. You know, when you land that elastic slingshot from a Zac, you know, into the Sion ultimate, into the decimating snatch, into the feathers getting pulled through for a root. Like, there's so much hard engage. So, you know, while if Rekkles and Caps can stay free in a team fight, they can put out a tremendous amount of damage. If you get caught by any part of that combo, you will get caught by everyone else's CC and go down immediately.
And the one thing we can always say about Kingzone is their team fighting is immaculate. They fell down multiple times against a Freak of Freaks in their finals, yet it was the team fighting prowess and their ability to play around these neutral objectives that got them back into the game. And that's one of the scariest things about this team. Even with a big lead, teams have to continuously play at their A game, otherwise Kingzone will find the small windows to punish.
And that's why I think it's so important for Fnatic to not only keep vision control, but to be the ones that are initiating the fight, to put them on the back foot, so they are dictating the pace of the game.
You can see Fnatic trying to do that down towards this bottom lane. Now, we talked a lot about the fact that Kingzone want to scale. Kingzone will be looking for these certain item points, but exactly where are they going towards? When can they take that big team fight? What's the next objective for them?
If you're Kingzone, well, right now you just kind of have to mitigate the fact that all your outer towers are going to drop. And the thing is, when you have this kind of 1-3-1 style comp, ideally you want to have a lead, but Khan, he's been at such a deficit, he hasn't been able to fight. Now we see a fight.
A big fight coming out. Call of Forge got used. Bwipo there misses it, but in the midst of it all is Gorilla. He's the first to go down. Now they're going to jump on Prey. Fnatic find the fight in the jungle. This is the Fnatic we saw in the EU LCS split. Team fights, skirmishes. That's exactly what they can do. Khan's in the midst of it all, but the Hemo player only hits onto Rekkles, and now Khan has fallen. Kingzone collapse in their own jungle, and Rekkles and Caps are not done yet. The chase onto BDD, unable to connect with the stun, will force him back underneath his tower.
This is a huge fight for Fnatic, but the question is, what can they get off the back of it? It's all well and good getting kills, but if you're not gaining more control over the map, or it doesn't really result in a huge amount. So they steal away the red buff, they're able to push in a couple of waves, and if they secure this Rift Herald, it sets up nicely for that tier 2 moving forward.
And it's honestly looking like Kingzone are just so unaccustomed to being behind. I mean, they have a legendary early game, and honestly quite a bit of overcommitment to that fight. When Gorilla and Prey are already down, why is Khan flashing into the midst of that fight, trying to pull that off? It just seems like it's way too much.
So there was half a second between the Rift Herald despawning and the Baron coming in there. Hylissang does pick it up, but as you say,
calculated.
Yeah, Kingzone are doing what EVOS did yesterday. They're taking fights from behind and losing them.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at the state of the fight, right? You know, the TP in from Khan is great to try to join, but once Gorilla is down, once Prey is down, you just have to cut your losses, right? You have BDD flashing over the wall. How are you going to save that person? And Khan, where is the damage going to be in a 3v5 with 2 tanks who are behind to win that, right? You know, that is just honestly poor play from the Kingzone top laner.
And I've just been so impressed with how Fnatic have controlled this red buff, because ad stats confirm for me that so far Peanut has only had 1 red buff this entire game. Fnatic multiple times have said, whenever their red buff spawns, we're going towards it. And Peanut just hasn't learned his lesson. We've seen 3 fights there now, and every single time it has gone in Fnatic's favor. 6,000 gold lead, they have full control over the map, and they are pressuring all 3 lanes.
And one of the biggest things is where that gold is actually placed. When you look at Caps, this early in the game, has an IE and his Trinity Force, his Sword Boots are already done. He is comically strong at this point in the game. Can certainly look to instantly burst down any of these squishy members. If Prey mispositions for 1 second and gets crit, a Trinity Force crit is going to be like 80% of his health.
This is where we have to see Kingzone have that legendary map play. They're behind, they have to find opportunities to pick off members of Fnatic, they have to find ways of not losing their base.
And the last time that Kingzone, formerly Longzhu, went up against Fnatic, it was a 20-minute stomp with a dancing Rift Herald in the base. Now we see an engage from Fnatic in mid.
We've been from the side, Prey pops at the Feather Storm to get himself out alive, but that tower is going to fall before the TP can connect. Maybe Fnatic will want to continue the fight. Instead, they say, we'll just take the tower for now.
I mean, they're just extending this gold lead so large. Really, Kingzone is going to have to find a way to stall this out or to start getting some turrets. There's so much gold left on the map because they have not down any turrets. So if they were to win a fight, they can certainly very quickly close some of that lead, but As of now, it's certainly all Fnatic all the time. They just need to keep up the pace.
So now the priority for Kingzone is to get some vision control around Baron, because they're very aware that Fnatic's next objective will be the big purple worm. Once that is secured for Fnatic, the base will not survive very long for Kingzone. So by getting a bit of vision, their ability to contest still exists, and maybe Peanut can either find a steal or Kingzone can get a good fight.
And it's kind of that balance for Fnatic between not being too passive, not being too slow about taking the Baron, but also knowing that this is a combo-based AoE CC team coming out of Kingzone. If there were a place for Kingzone to win a fight on the map, it is in the Baron pit with the Vladimir, with all the CC coming out.
And I'm sure Fnatic are remembering the RNG game from yesterday when they started up a couple of Barons and fell because of it. They will be a little bit apprehensive about playing around that Baron against a team this strong, but what they're doing well is that vision control now.
And we've also got to remember that Fnatic's sitting on right now a 7,000 gold lead. So even with the comp of Kingzone, maybe they just feel so confident that they'll just try to force a fight anyway. Right now, their eyes are set on this tier 2 in the top lane.
Double AD carry takes down towers incredibly quickly. Khan is not here, has teleport if he wants to join the fight. There is a ward behind Fnatic as well.
They're just going to use the Ornn ult to try to clear them off and pressure this turret.
Prey uses his own ultimate to keep himself alive. Tower goes down in the bottom lane. Gorilla there in the front line. BDD stunned up. Cap stepping forward, but they can't get the tower. There's no minions here for Fnatic.
It's good wave clear from Kingzone. They're just trying to buy time for Khan, and now Fnatic's likely going to have to send someone back for him, and this will diffuse a lot of the pressure.
And it looks like that the tier 2 does not go down for Fnatic, but the confident play coming out from Caps, we wanted to see more consistency from him, and we know that from the regular season, Corki was a champion that he often referred to. It was one of his most played, and it was something that he had a lot of success with, but then the meta shifted, and so many mid laners put a lot more value on things like the Xayah and the Talia. Now he's brought it back, he's shown the consistency that he was able to show during the regular season.
You've also got to give so much credit to Bwipo going up against Khan on a carry. This guy is an absolute monster. You can see how much effect Bwipo has had in this game, and he is essentially a brick wall. I mean, he is sitting on Abyssal Randuin's Frozen Heart. It's going to be so ridiculously hard for Prey to actually punch through him in a team fight, in addition to the fact that a Braum is going to be blocking so much of your damage.
Yep. You can see Rekkles yet to really find full efficacy on that Tristana, sitting only at 3,000 damage at the moment. He's getting these items under his belt, static shift for Infinity Edge. This is where we need to see him as that second carry. Bwipo stepped up to the plate, but on a tank, he can't carry this team.
But he's on a champion that he is so much more comfortable on, and he's had a game where he's so much happy with. Outside of the death during the laning phase, I feel like he's much better set up to really play the style that he was so much more familiar with during the regular season.
And I'd honestly say, it doesn't actually matter if he does any damage to champions if you can just keep hitting the turrets,
That's
right?
very true.
Tristana is the Siege champion. If Kingzone cannot engage into you and take that fight, you don't need to look for the fight. You just need to continue pushing the pace, continue utilizing this as a turret destroyer, and that is going to be ridiculously strong. You know, rapid fire is done for Caps. That's going to be even more power in the team fights and more power for that turret. And Rekkles has his now too. So these guys are legendarily strong at this point in the game.
And look at all the vision investment from Fnatic right now. So many controls have been picked up outside of Rekkles. Shame on you, Rekkles. Shame on you.
I like how you point at him. As though he's looking over. He's got to know. Okay.
He knows. But Fnatic are going to invest in this vision. And right now, Kingzone, they've just set up a very defensive line. You can see controllers littered right behind the entrances to a lot of their jungles to see how far Fnatic have really stepped in with regards to that vision, and ideally it provides them with a baseline so they can still move into parts of their jungle, and the risk of them getting picked off is much lower.
Teleport coming in top here from Bwipo, just going to join this fight for the moment. Broxah, Hylissang and Rekkles are on their way across as well. Looking for that rapid fire shot on towards the tower from Rekkles. That's another turret down. No inhibitor towers down yet, but Fnatic have cleared the rest of the map.
And look at the vision around this Baron. They are looking to force. That is Bwipo's TP, so they need to at least force the teleport out of Khan here. And they are just baiting for now, but if you wait too long, you have to start.
Farsight Alteration will spot them out. Rekkles just waiting for that vision to clear. They can start it up. Bwipo and Rekkles, Caps and Broxah all there. Hylissang waiting in the wings. Peanut steps forward. Gorilla there as well. Fnatic playing around the Baron, but you can see the reaction, the suppression on Gorilla. He's down. Khan teleporting in. This is the fight that you have to win if you're Kingzone, because otherwise Fnatic are going to take everything. BDD knocked away. Prey with the Feather Storm keeping himself alive. Look at the bottom side of this fight, because that's where Kingzone have to retreat to. Bwipo still in that front line, tanking up all the damage, forcing Kingzone away.
Bwipo doing so much work in the 1v2. He forces Prey back. Fnatic, they find a kill onto Gorilla, and they have their eyes set on the Baron.
Peanut can still steal here. Flash, smite, up for him. Bwipo forced away by Khan, but Khan now has to pop the Sanguine Pool. Broxah taking it up. Prey is dead. Rekkles jumps in. Peanut has to leap the hell away from there, and he's forced out. And now the Baron is Fnatic's. They can secure this one easily.
Fnatic doing such a good job around the Baron, pushing Peanut out, not giving any chance of a 50-50 there. They secure the Baron, they secure the kills, and they are so far ahead. They're on the verge of taking a game off of Kingzone here.
9,000 gold ahead here, Vedius. Fnatic are in a dominant position, but you can never make a single mistake versus Kingzone.
I mean, yes, but at this point, I feel like it would be very hard for Fnatic to lose.
Please don't say that.
No one has ever come back.
It's just, like, as good as Kingzone are, when you have a 9,000 gold deficit and you have 2 items to the 3.5 on Caps and Rekkles, like...
I'd like to remind you of SKT versus RNG at Worlds.
Okay.
Let's have another look at this bound.
So, we see the setup, right? I love the flash in from Broxah to just take out one of the main engage tools from Prey, immediately putting them into a numbers disadvantage. Kingzone also gets split up, which is ideal for Caps and Rekkles because the 2 big carries on the team can just work through one of the big frontliners, and then the new upcoming carry of the team, Bwipo, is able to zone the rest of the team off. They're patient around the Baron, they find a clean secure, and now they're the ones splitting up the map.
And Bwipo has picked up his own banner of command. They are getting Baron buff minions in all 3 lanes, pushing up, and someone is going to have to respond very quickly or they have to engage. There's not a lot of options here for Kingzone, so the mid 3 here for Fnatic need to play back and wait until you have vision on everyone else.
When we talked about the team fight and the engage from Kingzone, but my worry is Gorilla doesn't have a QSS, and no, he does have a QSS, but he doesn't have cleanse, so if he gets locked up in 2 forms of CC, he's never going to be able to get to that backline. Look for the Skarner suppression, look for the concussive blows coming out from Hylissang, because that's what's going to stop him in his tracks.
Now we see all 3 lanes. There's the engage just to zone away Khan from the tower.
That's the inhibitor tower down. Fnatic break open the base of Kingzone. Meanwhile, in the top side, that's where we're going to see Kingzone engage. Inhibitor's going to fall here. Caps was able to get away by himself from 3 members of Kingzone. In fact, all 4 of them there.
And look at the ultis that we use. Gorilla doesn't have his ult. BDD doesn't have his ult. Caps was forced to use his flash. But the fact that Fnatic were able to secure an inhibitor without losing anything means that they're going to have so much more of an easier time taking these next 2 inhibitors down.
And they still have a minute on the Baron buff. You can reset, you can get back out on the map and now look to pressure as a 5-man squad in the mid lane with double rapid fire AD carry. It is not going to take a lot to really knock down these inhibitor turrets.
And I find it fascinating that so much of the focus was put onto Rekkles. Rekkles, you need to step up. You're expected to be the secondary carry. You're the man that needs to work with Caps in order to find any sort of ability to win these games. But it is Bwipo that is turning his performance around. It is Brox's early game that is finding those early ganks and denying Peanut the ability to have an impact. And Hylissang, his positioning and his involvement in these fights, this whole Fnatic squad is stepping up, and they're the ones in control against Kingzone.
They certainly are, but we do have to give that respect over to Kingzone to know that they can turn any game around. And we have to think now, what is the way for them to do it? And it's about denying vision, it's about finding that engage, and when it presents itself, there has to be no hesitation. So we need Gorilla, we need Peanut to be finding these picks, but Caps has relative safety with the package available, so he's not the one they're going to be able to look for, but you can't sit back now as Kingzone. You need to pull the trigger and win a fight instantly.
They have been in this sort of situation before, maybe not this split, but there are so many veterans on this team, so many experienced players. You only have to look at the bottom lane of Prey and Gorilla. 3 LCK championships together, multiple worlds appearances, and that's what Gorilla looks for with the engage. But Caps able to get away towards the backline. Fnatic in the midst of this all. Rekkles is not there. BDD kills Hylissang. Bwipo having to run away here as well. Rekkles is going for the mid lane inhib though. Prey's trying to answer him. It's AD versus AD for the moment, but Peanut has joined in as well.
Remember that earlier on, Caps was forced to use his flash, so he had to play extremely defensively in that fight. That meant that Hylissang had to be the defensive line, but even with an engage from Kingzone, Fnatic have too much pressure with the super minion.
Look at Peanut though, he's going to be able to cut off Bwipo and Broxah in the midst of this all. Prey chunked out, but Caps now caught up in that backline. Gorilla with a double knockback. The combo that we talked about from Kingzone is devastating. They do lose mid lane inhib to Rekkles, who now needs to get out. They're going to lose Bwipo as well.
And this is the best case scenario for Kingzone, but they've lost so much as a result. They have no inhibitor towers left. They've lost 2 of their inhibitors to boot, and even a Nexus tower to add on to that. Fnatic, yes, they lost the fight, but they still have full control over this game.
Yeah, I mean, Kingzone played the fights very, very well there, but because Fnatic waited for the Super Minions to be pushing in the bottom lane, those were always going to be getting damage done, and it takes so long to punch through these tanky members like Bwipo that bought time for Rekkles to knock down an inhibitor here, and here's the fight once more.
So we can see, I feel like Fnatic, they overextended just a little bit in terms of committing to that inhibitor, and that does mean that Caps was in a position where even with his W, without a flash from the amount of engage tools that Kingzone did have, it made it easier to lock him down. And without a damage dealer, there's no way that they're going to be able to swing that fight around. So good fight there from Kingzone.
And it buys them some time, right? And the thing is here, you don't have to really leave your base as Kingzone until the Baron is up, until the Elder is up. So that will get them to their next completed items, perhaps, and that is going to put them at a very powerful point in the game. Yes, Caps and Rekkles are going to be ahead, but these carries are not going to be weak by any means on Kingzone. With the right execution, one more team fight can buy you access, perhaps, to that Baron.
And I do feel that when you talk about their ability to teamfight, Khan is the man that I'm looking at, level 18. He is now actually a level above Bwipo, and he's got a Death Cap plus Void Staff completed. This Vladimir is very, very strong. And if you're grouped up in a Baron with the additional damage that the Baron does do, this man could turn an entire fight on its head.
And you've also got to look then at Rekkles, who has picked up no MR, no executioners for healing debuff there on the Vladimir, nothing like that. So he is certainly vulnerable if Khan can find him, but they are looking to push in and close this game out before that even has a chance.
Prey pops the Feather Storm once again. Fnatic 5-man in the top lane. Kingzone trying to answer. So far behind, Gorilla jumps in, but can't quite land the quickness. There's the Shurelius from Khan, though, trying to get on towards that back line. Doesn't make the connection, and now Fnatic will redouble their efforts and push back in.
Remember, Fnatic don't have to force anything because the Super Minions are pushing in from 2 different lanes. That's the 3rd inhibitor down. Fnatic is going to Nexus.
Getting shredded here, Bedius. Bwipo in the front line. Peanut jumps in, but that Nexus tower has to be the target here for Fnatic. They can't take it. No minions there yet. And Kingzone able to defend for the moment.
But for how much longer? I mean, Super Minions coming from every lane, 2 at a time. There will be 6 per wave, essentially, here. And they stop the base of Bwipo, so he's not able to TP and rejoin. But the Nexus turrets are gone. They are getting corralled into their base.
The Nexus is so close to falling. Fnatic, they could claim their revenge over Kingzone and secure their first win of MSI. There's only a Kingzone squad that stands in their way.
Only the back-to-back LCK champions in the way. Gorilla gets on that backline, but Caps is still alive. The Hemo Plague is huge here. Able to keep Caps up, though. Rekkles in the midst of it all, getting a lot of damage down. Bwipo forcing Prey out from the backline. Rekkles drops away. Fnatic redouble their efforts, push back in. Caps gets 1, Prey gets 1, but BDD's the next to fall, and Fnatic can see the base. They can see it in their sights. Fnatic are gonna take the game. They'll kill the unkillable and take down Kingzone.
A complete flip from day one. Fnatic. It is not Rekkles who steps up, but the whole team steps up. And to find your first win over Kingzone, the heavy favorites over this group stage. What a performance from the European representatives.
I mean, honestly, just incredible. And really, I know he is already a star in his own right, but Caps has arrived on the international level, playing incredible yesterday in 2 losses, and now really the standout player again for me here today, Fnatic. He was outclassing BDD in this game, and that's certainly not something we were expecting to see.
Before the tournament, Rekkles talked about Caps and said at Worlds, maybe he was a little bit naive, maybe he was still a little bit too young to bear the weight of a game like this. But I think this performance shows that he has matured, that he is now one of the top mid laners in Europe, maybe even in the world.
And you've got to give so much credit to Broxah, tracking Peanut, keeping him down throughout this game. They had a strong level 1. They're able to get so much from that, taking away the first red buff and continuously attacking that throughout the game, keeping Peanut not only limited in farm, but limited in opportunity.
And you think about, look at the reaction from Caps, finding his first win over Kingzone. He's got to be so happy. He's such a young player. After his Worlds performance, we know he wasn't happy. We know he was still hungry. He has been working all split long to have this moment. And finally, he has realized it.
And Kingzone, on the other hand, will look at that and say, yesterday, we said if we don't make too many mistakes, we can go undefeated in the group stage, undefeated in the tournament. That performance was a slew of mistakes from Kingzone.
So I think it was a combination of the two. Number one, I think the draft was very smart from Fnatic. The fact that Peanut was put onto Zach and he was not allowed to interfere with the lanes whatsoever, I felt really affected the early game from the side of Kingzone. But on top of that, the fact that Fnatic so consistently controlled that red buff over and over and over again, really gave them a strong early game lead and prevented Kingzone from snowballing what should have been the stronger 2v2.
We definitely did see some uncharacteristic mistakes, though. You know, looking at at Khan and how incredible he is on these carries, delaying his first base so incredibly long. Allowed Fnatic to punish him for that, get multiple kills. Then his TP down for a fight around that red buff. Two members are already dead. He's going in essentially 1v5, trying to pull off a play. That is not what you expect to see from a guy who was 24-1, now 24-2 on carries.
Well, for more on Fnatic's win, let's head over to Shox and their mid laner.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm joined here by Caps after a huge victory over Kingzone. Caps, what does it mean to you to not just get your first win at MSI, but to do it over the LCK champions Kingzone?
It means so much. I think going to the tournament, scrims were actually going well, except for against Kingzone. And I was really... I have a lot of respect for BDD. I think he is I mean, compared to all the other mids, I think he seems a lot stronger. So it means so much that we were able to pull it out. I think also yesterday we had a lot of meta issues. I think we are not completely set on the meta. And even this game, I think Corki into Sion might not be the best matchup, and Corki is not really that meta. So I think we just need to work on our what picks we pick, and then I feel like our play is good. So.
Yeah, it looked very good. You say it isn't in the meta, but do you think it was the best decision to go to comfort picks? That Tristana for Rekkles, Corki, who you are so comfortable on. Did that help?
I think, we had a really good plan. I actually thought about this yesterday, last night when I was in my bed. I was like, wait, how do we win against Kingzone? I was trying to find out some cheese. And usually what happened was that when we would walk in to do the invade topside, they would go to water blue. So we faked that we were invading, and then when they went to water blue, we just ended up killing Xayah, I think. And that kind of set the tone of the game. And
so it's your plan?
We got signed. Yeah,
Just kidding, yeah. Yeah, but it seemed like you guys were very prepared, and this has to be a confidence boost. Yesterday, there was a lot of talk about, okay, maybe not the right picks. That game versus RNG was so close. Do you think now you've really found your form and you're set to go on that run of MSI that you said you could go on?
I definitely think our play is good. I think even with this lead, we were able to snowball, which, a lot of teams have gotten leads against Kingzone and Longsu in the past, but they haven't been able to snowball, which was a huge factor in this game. We were so stressed out because we didn't want to throw our lead. But we were able to pull it out, and I think that proves that we are kind of a strong team. But both this game and yesterday we had meta problems, and I think we just, as soon as we get to set them down, as soon as we have a few more days, and if we were to make playoffs, I think we will be a really strong contender.
Fantastic. Quickly, I have to ask, a huge victory here. You can go 2-0 today. All you have to do is beat Team Liquid from the NA LCS. What are your thoughts about that match?
I heard they had Joey as supported today. So we kind of have an insider with Young Bucks, so I think the game will be ours.
Espionage. Okay, fantastic. Congratulations. Huge victory for Caps and for Fnatic. Over to you guys at the desk.
Thank you very much, Shox, and welcome to the State Farm Analyst Desk. A huge victory for Fnatic here over Kingzone at the top of the day. And already one of our big questions has been answered. Will or can Kingzone be beaten? The answer is definitively yes.
I think this was the type of surprise that you were looking for, Chad. Top day
Absolutely.
yesterday, not so much. This one, yeah.
And I put my hand up and said that they were not infallible. And
Yes.
like you mentioned at the top of the day, Dash, the difference between them going perfect in group stages last year and MSI is the fact that the field here is stronger. I came into this tournament and thought RNG, TL, and Fnatic were all able, if they could work on their win conditions, to beat a Kingzone if they couldn't get ahead early, and that's exactly what happened here.
And let's start with the draft, too, because we mentioned even yesterday, we thought we were going to have a lot of these conversations of how do you beat Kingzone? First and foremost, you do want to shut down Peanut.
Yes.
But the other thing that I really like that Fnatic did is there were a lot of firsts in this draft. They were the first team to allow Rakan through the ban phase, and they were the first set of teams that didn't even have Xayah in the pick ban phase, right? They absolutely went for their comfort, but I feel like also did potentially trip up Kingzone a little bit, even though Peanut can play Zach. It definitely didn't have the early game tempo they wanted in almost definitely the top lane, and the first blood had a much larger impact on this game than I think we're giving it credit.
I think without a doubt, and Papa Smithy, I know you had your eyes on the warding here out of Fnatic when it comes to the early game, controlling that tempo and controlling Peanut. So let's roll through that. Of course, started with the first blood. That gives them the agency to place these wards.
And one of the ways you beat Kingzone is you have a proactive level 1 plan. Often teams just defensively fan, they give up the early game, they want to see what Kingzone's going to do. They go in with Braum, very simple. One of the strongest level 1 champions in the game. They roll in with Braum. Now you know the Zach is behind. And then it was a team effort. You see on your screen, Bwipo in the top side, he's warding a camp. We saw Hylissang popping down on the bot side, warding the Krugs. They had eyes on Peanut. And to your point, Jad, about just denying away specifically the Zach, I think that Zach has been one of his power picks this season. The difference is, with the level 1, Fnatic saw that, okay, the Zach's going to be behind. Let's go in for the kill. Let's attack Zach. And shutting down Zach was a core tenet of strategy last year when Zach was last in meta. If you get it, if you smell the blood, if you think, okay, we're on the front foot, we can make something happen. They certainly did.
For me, though, the compounding factor was also then the gank on mid lane. Yeah, they set down all this great vision. They're able to track Peanut. He's on a slower tempo jungler, you know, having Zach access to ganks closer to level 5 than early on. And then Broxah slipping into the mid lane and punishing BDD. And suddenly BDD isn't able to collapse first. Perkz has a lot more agency in the lane. He's the guy who's collapsing towards the top lane and getting that sick double kill. And suddenly, not only have you shut down Peanut, but it's starting to spill over into the mid lane.
Wanted to see Broxah be more active than he was here on day 1. Definitely achieved that. And of course, the player that he was supporting was Caps. This was the guy they were looking at yesterday as making some really great moves, had some mistakes. So let's see if he can shore up those weaknesses. He did just that today.
Yeah, best game. He had the same type of early game playmaking he had yesterday without the late game mistakes, even when Kingzone was throwing Sion ults up top lane and Rakan ults later in the game. I think a couple things happened this game as well. I really do have to credit Fnatic for recovering from yesterday after all the stuff that was getting thrown at them on social media, staying strong with Bwipo, who had a great performance, but also I think Kingzone played probably their worst game of the year.
Wow.
Because gold at 20. In the LCK, the worst their gold at 20 was 3.4 thousand. They were down 6K at 20 minutes. And Khan in particular, I feel like, was playing awful. And I think he was playing in a way where he did not respect his opponents at all. And I think he respects his opponents in the LCK, even if his interviews are going to make you think elsewise, because these TPs we're about to show are hot garbage.
So it manifested in the TPs, in his joining with the team and looking for what? Flank positioning?
Yeah, I mean, look at this. They were collapsing on the Skarner in the jungle, but he just walked straight into 2 people.
He's not communicating here. His teammates are all focusing on the kill on the bot side. He's not gaining anything. There's no free double kill. It's not a level 16 Vladimir. It does look laughable, and Khan's teleports from ahead, Khan's teleports from behind. It's a different thing.
And the huge issue here is that how important Khan is, his responsibility to his team as the Vladimir. If they had a win condition late game, if they were ever going to come back and have any sort of priority in this game, it had to be through the Vladimir reaching that level 16, having access to the items, and then amplifying all of the damage. But Khan misplaying like that meant that there was never going to be a chance for Kingzone to even try to mount a front.
There's a few larger tournament discussions I want to have here too. Implications as made by this game. We heard the conversation Shox had with Caps about the Corki pick. Him saying that, you know, while it isn't necessarily a meta pick, maybe isn't even that strong into the matchup against Sion, it is so much about comfort. And we get to this point where, you know, we've been talking about teams and where they should go to look for advantages in a tournament like this. Is this all the evidence anyone needs to say, hey, screw the meta that is dictated by the Korean teams and the top teams. Let's start playing what we play best.
I actually really like the Corki pick into Sion. We've seen it a couple times in the LPL just because how you can deal with Banner a little bit easier. And then ultimately, it wasn't just Caps' endgame on the Corki pick, it was also the Aurelion Soul ban, the Zoe ban. So Caps, his influence was felt even before they landed on the Rift by trying to set Fnatic up for that comfort draft.
Now, the next question here is the implications for standings. Of course, Kingzone now sitting at 2-1, Fnatic moving to 1-2. They have the ability to end the day at that 500 mark. And on top of all that, Flash Wolves have the opportunity to move solidly into first place if they're able to pick up a 2-0 on the day.
Yeah, we're still only just over a fifth of the way.
Very early on in the tournament.
But the fact that we're thinking there's a big competition to make that cut line and make it a knockout stage, being able to take a game off of Kingzone, which very few teams are going to be able to do like Fnatic just did, is just a huge leg up. They've gotten that game out of the way and gotten a W out of it. They could potentially finish the first half of the group stage 3-2 at this point. So they completely changed the script from yesterday.
All right.
And I think we get to remove some of the mysticism about Kingzone, because they are this mythical team that rolled through the LCK. They're just going to win the tournament 10-0 in group stage. The thing that we should take away from this in particular is if their jungler is behind, and Peanut is the lifebeat of this team, it's going to slow them down. Because this team, honestly, is Peanut going somewhere and BDD backing him up. Is that the enemy jungle? Is it top lane? Is it bot lane? They decide that on the fly. In this game, the Sion was getting pushed in. Peanut was his own jungle, 2 levels behind. Neither of them had agency. Fnatic made all the decisions and did not make a critical mistake. They closed the game.
This is what a 3 out of 10 game looks like from the top lane.
Yes.
This is actually 3 out of 10.
All right, fair
Good
enough.
CS, everything else bad.
All right, well, there you have it. Hey, we asked the question. Fnatic answered it with a big upset here at the top of the day. They laid out the formula. We'll see if other teams can follow it. RNG and EVOS, they're tied going into today, and we look ahead to see who will win our next game. Don't miss it.
The gank on BDD, no flash on that Sion, does get the slow. Flash in though, Broxah gets the stun lock, BDD caught out at the tower. His way as well, Bwipo, no flash on him, of course, there's the suppression, but it's only onto Peanut and Broxah's gone way too far. Here comes the Corki though, 1 on Khan, Peanut goes into the globules as well. The package in, Prey flashes away, but Caps still on the chase. Gorilla's gonna sacrifice himself and Fnatic capitalize in the bottom lane.
They utilized the TP advantage that Bwipo gained after Khan tried to collapse down in the river. The deficit he hasn't been able to find. Now we see a fight.
A big fight coming out, Call of Forge got used, Bwipo there misses it, but in the midst of it all is Gorilla. He's the first to go down. Now they're going to jump on Prey. Fnatic find the fight in the jungle. This is the Fnatic we saw in the EU LCS split.
Yes, I. Yes! Holy shit.
Come on, guys.
Holy shit, we have the Kingslayers.
We're back.
The Kingslayers. Oh. Holy shit.